Imagine, if you will, a world in which animal people roam the streets of the towns and cities you inhabit, dressed like any one of us, working their day-to-day jobs, buying groceries, getting blackout drunk at your local bar, and attending conventions on the hottest days of November. Maybe you've crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
You know, or maybe you just showed up at the hotel con, because, yeah, I mean, that's probably it. New Zealand is a pretty small place, if I'm being honest. Like, really small. It's like the small place. So it would be easy to make the mistake in thinking that we don't have our own conventions for niche internet cultures like the furry community. But we do! We've had a couple of them over the years, actually. FurcoNZ, or FurCons, was the OG con, and has been held at campsites throughout New Zealand for over 20 years now. The first one I attended was way back in 2009, and I have been attending it annually ever since. Then we had Southern Paws for a couple of years, which was on New Zealand's South Islands, which was also a camp con. You might already be noticing a theme here, and that's because initially, New Zealand's community was, pretty small. The earliest recorded attendance for the convention being as small as 18 people. And with such a small turnout, renting an entire hotel like one of the big named American conventions was, well, not quite viable, of course. So, we continued the tradition of camp-based conventions, with bonfires, hikes, and a ton of different outdoor activities. A very Kiwiana approach. And yet, fast forward to 2024, and we held our first ever hotel-based convention. Which I kinda missed. Hey, don't look at me like that. I wanted to go, I did. I just, I've been, kinda broke is all. At the time, I could really only afford to go to either FurCons or the Auckland Armageddon Expo. And I'd already made plans to go to that expo with two of my other buddies, so, what can I say? My paws were tied. But I wasn't going to let that happen this time around. 2025, I was gonna be there. And like a holy pilgrimage of old, I would make my journey up to Auckland. Me and daughter packed up the car and began the long drive up north. We had considered flying up, but unfortunately, due to my tail being so big, I don't really fit well in your standard commercial airplanes. And I am not going into cargo again. Not after last time. So, drive we did. The journey was about 8 hours, but we made a couple of little stops on the way so it wasn't such a slog. Grabbing breakfast and bowls, and making a more substantial stop in Taupo, where we took a swim at Debrett's natural mineral pools to unwind. Then grabbed lunch before we continued the drive to Auckland, finally reaching the city at around 4 p.m. We met up with our friend AK, Cool Kitsune and friend to us and the channel, who had agreed to put us up for the night before the convention. We were pretty exhausted from the long drive, but still had enough energy in us for some games, grabbing dinner at Noodle Canteen, and yapping excitedly about the next day's convention, before turning in for the night and sleeping like an absolute rock until morning. Before we knew it, it was the 21st, the first day of the convention. Now, registration wouldn't be opening until about 1 p.m. on site, so we had a little time to fill in around Auckland. We spent the downtime grabbing lunch and doing a spot of shopping, and, of course, invading all the trading card shops I could find to pick up any last-minute singles to tweak up my commander deck. What? Yeah, this is a con video, I'm getting there, but Auckland just has a ton of really good card stores, so I like to poke my head in whenever I'm up that way. At this point, I think a lot of the card stores up there have my picture on a wall behind the register because of all the damage my tail keeps doing to their stands. We pulled up to the most prestigious Holiday Inn around 12, lugging enough baggage to entomb a small child, checking in at the front desk, and grabbing our room keys. We took like the most unoptimal route to our room for some goddamn reason to drop off our bags, mostly because we misheard the directions to the room, but also because seeing all the furries already on site had us buzzing to go over and say hi to everybody. We got to our room and met up with the rest of our con roomies, Fuzz, Gaius, and Waffles, who were all great peeps and generally jumped on board for some of our later con antics. We still had a bit of time until the registration desk opened though, so like the trading card addict I am, I squeezed in a quick little game of Commander with a couple of other con attendees, getting the chance to test out my newest build around Psych. Video pending. But as soon as registration opened up, the tide of furries shifted into two neatly organized lines, shuffling along and getting checked in, picking up our badges and con book. This year the theme was Time Twisters. In previous years, I've tried to organize a costume to fit the con theme, but with how hectic getting ready for HotelCon was this year, I was just really happy to be here. And soon we were all signed up. The need to shed my feeble human disguise was growing stronger, and despite it being like the hottest part of the day, I was making a beeline straight back to our room to get in a suit. 35-degree heat. Middle of fucking summer. Look, if you've been watching me for, hell, any length of time now, you probably know I have crazy rat brain and just want to do all the fun things all the time, even if it's like a crazy dumb idea. And, well, if it's your first time watching me, oh my god, hi! I completely destroyed myself. 3.5 hours of bouncing around, getting photos, and catching up with the local fuzz left me absolutely destroyed. Like a sad, withered skunk rag, which had to be dragged and positioned into the shower for rehydration, nursing on energy drinks as I recovered. But I couldn't let this minor case of crippling exhaustion and heat stroke slow me down. Oh, no, the con was only just getting started. The opening ceremony was due to kick off at 6 p.m., so daughter and the rest of the room pried my roadkill ass off the shower floor and carried me out to the main stage, grabbing a seat just in time for the introductions, where the event organizer, MJ, and the staff of the convention officially declared the con open. We mingled around the foyer for a while after the ceremony, just catching up with people before we decided to nip out to gather a couple of supplies for the coming days. Both Gaius and Waffles were going to be setting up stalls in the dealer's den tomorrow, but weren't sure if the convention itself was supplying any clothing racks for the merch they were selling. So we figured, why not zip out to the warehouse, grab a pair of them, stock up on the appropriate amount of junk food and drink, then snag dinner before zipping back to the hotel. Admittedly, we could have done dinner at the Holiday Inn itself. They have this like buffet dinner thing you can pay for, but it was pretty rich for our blood, and frankly, a squad of 4 furries invading the local KFC and freaking out the normies was just a much more of a fun idea. We got back around 8, which was perfect timing for the Wicked Ones event going on at the main stage, though me and daughter opted to instead attend our friend's room party, where we caught up with Riri, Durin, Stucat, and Ariel, yapping and drinking for a few hours before the yips and shanties began to kick off at the bar. Making our way there and watching the pirate gang draw in a nice tipsy little mosh pit. We hung around here for a while, but I eventually realized the games room was open with a couple of furries gathering for some late night Commander. And I mean, being somewhat of a cardboard addict myself, I decided to partake in just a quick game of Commander or two, just a little bit, as a treat, wrapping up the first night of con at a very responsible 2 a.m. finish. It's Saturday and day 2 of the con, or rather the first full day, given Friday was sort of a late start. We kicked off the morning by catching up with our buddies, Durin and Aru, deciding to dip from the hotel temporarily and cross the road to the nearby Udaya Bakery. In New Zealand, the humble pie is a quintessential meal, be it breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And you know, like $4 versus the hotel's buffet breakfast at like $35. I mean, that's just a no-brainer, right? We kept things quick, as Duran and Aru wanted to make it back to the con by 10, as this was when the My First Con panel was kicking off. I was wrestling with the idea of getting straight back into fursuit, but opted to instead just wait a little bit until after we visited the dealer's den. You see, while the dealer's den was open from 10 AM, this was only for the sponsors, and we in the unwashed fluffy masses would be allowed in at 11. In previous years at the camp cons, the dealer's dens can get quite hectic and congested pretty fast. And if you're too slow to get in, not only are you going to be stuck waiting in another queue just to enter, but a lot of the cool stuff could already have sold. Not to mention, if I did try to enter the den in suit, there's no doubt my giant-ass tail would end up knocking over a bunch of stuff, and the con staff would have to bust out the squirt bottle again. So, we opted to lurk around the entrance to the dealer's den a little early. And to our surprise, because the sponsor had already wrapped up their shopping, we got to head in there early. There was a ton of cool stuff on offer here. Partial suits, stickers, art commissions, prints, jewelry, clothing, keychains, anything and everything that could have a cute fluffy face plastered onto it, it was there. I really wish I had been able to save a little more money for this convention, so I could have picked up a couple more things. But ultimately, I ended up just getting one of the amazing reversible jackets that Waffles was selling at his stall. Like seriously, look how sweet this thing is. You can turn him inside out to change the design, which is such a cool idea. I bet you want one too, right? Well, if you do, then you should check out www.sexwithfurries.com. That's right, I kid you not, sexwithfurries.com, where you too can pick up these absolutely stunning hoodies, shorts, and salacious body pillows. That's Sex with Furries. No, this isn't like a sponsored bit or anything like that. Just when he told me the URL for the website, I absolutely lost my shit and decided if I was going to do a video on this con, I absolutely had to sneak in a little sexwithfurries.com. But I mean, yeah, you should check them out or something. At 12 o'clock, the dealer's den was closed temporary for lunchtime. So we grabbed both Gaius and Waffles and zipped out to Auckland to grab some food. Whenever I'm up Auckland way, I have this tradition where I always get at least one meal at Oporto's, because it's the only one left in New Zealand. And honestly, that is a crime. Their burgers are so good. So, of course, I sort of spearheaded the group here to both introduce them to the best Portuguese chicken burgers they'd ever had. The best Portuguese chicken burgers they'd ever had! And so I can tick it off my to-do list. With the lunch detour complete, it was time to suit back up again. And once again, the hottest part of the day. At this point, I'm pretty sure I am just stupid. Like, even my friends were going, "Hey, Milkshake, maybe you should wait a couple more hours."
Yeah, Milkshake, it's really hot out right now, and the fursuit games start at 6 p.m. I mean, you don't want to miss those, right?
Their weak constitution sickened me. I would not be swayed from my path. So I got back into suit, heading into the beautiful summer sunshine. And, okay, this is hot. This is really hot. I suited for 3 hours, and that godforsaken heat. Now, on the bright side, the day itself was beautiful, and the photos taken were absolutely gorgeous. But on the downside, my entire body was gloriously illuminated in a heat mirage. Like I was cooked, chat. Absolutely microwaved skunk ass. Irradiated and defeated. William fucking Afton levels of crispy. By the time I returned to our room and threw myself under the cold shower, I was effectively goo. But happy goo. Now I was getting adequately hydrated at least. Still, when the roomies rocked around to check on me and collect me for dinner, I was still in, like, Gmod ragdoll mode, so they had to kind of, like, puppeteer my body around until my soul was properly retethered back into place, demolishing dinner to harness back some much-needed con energy. Because we were not finished with the day. Oh, no. We still had the dance to go to. You didn't think I was gonna miss that, right? Okay, so I didn't quite go in full suit for the dance, but I did rock up in partial suit, which was mercifully more manageable. Though I still only lasted like an hour or so before my body was starting to defy me. So I settled on a late night commander game once again to round out the night, bringing an end to day 2 of the convention. Sunday was here, the final day of FurcoNZ Hotel 2025. Technically, the con itself would be wrapping up tonight at midnight, but most of the attendees wouldn't be leaving until early Monday morning. Despite it being the final day of con, our spirits were high, and there was still plenty of fun to be had. Sunday was the day of the big fursuit parade after all, so I opted to control my insane urges to fursuit until it was at least time to do the parade. I don't want to be wiping myself out before that after all. Now the parade wasn't until 2 p.m, so we did have a lot of time on our hands, which we spent socializing and perusing the artist alley while we waited. I think I recall there were people making a trip out to Rainbow's End on Sunday, but I'm not sure I had the energy left in me for that as well. Soon enough, all the fursuiters were piling into the main stage area, where the dance had been held last night. We were going to start the parade from here, walking out through the foyer and into the outside garden area, before lining up to get the big group photos taken. Now this year, we had an absolutely insane number of suitors, coasting well over 100, which, for reference, was a little shy of 1 in every 5 attendees. This number might not sound too impressive to any of my US viewers, given how big cons like MFF are, but for us, this was a big one. Considering if we look back to the numbers of fursuiters we had attending, let's just pick a CamCon in 2014 was, gonna check my notes. Here we are.
7.
We had 7 fursuiters, which really just made me realize how much our little community has grown in such a short time. Okay, relatively short time. And also just how curious people were during COVID lockdowns back in 2020. Yeah. Y'all were spending a lot of time on the computer, huh? After the parade, there was still a bunch of fun activities going on. Karaoke, board games, the pool was open for swimming, and the big critter ball was kicking off around 9 p.m. until late. So we spent the last of our time at con making great friends and greater memories. Overall, Hotel Con was a fantastic experience. Initially, I had been a little anxious about attending this con. And I know a couple of my friends who decided to skip out on this one. Partially, I think, because it was labeled as the 18+ con. Honestly, if you're thinking of skipping Hotel Con in 2026...
I implore you to reconsider.
Okay.
It was non-stop fun from the minute we arrived to the minute we departed. Okay, well, bar the brief moment that I threw up in the morning on Monday. Drink responsibly, everybody. And, stay away from the all-you-can-eat dumpling place. And I really hope to see you all there for next year's con in 2026. And lastly, thank you all so much for watching, everyone. Sorry this video took a while to come out. It was a lot more work than my usual convention-style videos. But I hope you all really enjoyed this fun look back at FurcoNZ. With Christmas just around the corner, I don't think I'm going to get anything out before then, so I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and enjoy some time with your family, friends, or favorite cryptid creature. Just however you like to spend the holiday season. Take care of yourselves, be kind to one another, and I'll see you all again real soon. Happy holidays.